Welcome to AI ConvoCast, where we bring you the latest in AI and tech innovation. Please don't forget to rate, review, and share if you like what you hear. Let's jump right in.
Today we will be covering 4 big stories. OpenAI plugging ChatGPT directly into your medical records, and Apple Health. Anthropic making a massive bet on AMD chips, Claude's voice mode getting a serious brain upgrade, and Google publishing a huge study on how people actually use AI in real life. Let's start with OpenAI, which just began rolling out a feature simply called Health inside ChatGPT. If you're a logged-in US user over 18, you can now connect Apple Health, supported medical records and services like One Medical and Function Health. Once connected, ChatGPT can compare your test results over time, summarize what changed between doctor's appointments, and connect the dots between things like your sleep and activity data and your broader routine. It's available across free, Go, Plus, and Pro plans. The scale here is what raises the stakes. OpenAI says more than 300 million people already ask ChatGPT health questions every single week, so wiring in your actual records could make those conversations dramatically more grounded instead of generic. But this also pushes ChatGPT into one of the most sensitive categories of personal data that exists. OpenAI is trying to get ahead of the obvious privacy concerns, saying your connected records, Apple Health data, and any conversations using them won't be used to train its foundation models and won't feed advertising. You have to grant permission before ChatGPT can touch anything, and you can disconnect a source later. One early tester named Blake described it as turning scattered medical history into something I can actually understand and explain. That quote captures the real appeal here. Most of us have health data spread across a dozen patient portals and apps that don't talk to each other, and ChatGPT is positioning itself as the layer that finally ties it together, while carefully framing itself as supporting your doctor, not replacing them. Next up, Anthropic just made one of the most consequential hardware moves we've seen from a frontier lab. AMD agreed to supply Anthropic with tens of billions of dollars in AI infrastructure, and to invest up to $5 billion into Anthropic itself. Anthropic plans to deploy as much as 2 gigawatts of AMD's Instinct chips, with the first gigawatt starting to roll out in the first half of 2027. To put that in perspective, 2 gigawatts is data center scale demand, not some cautious experiment. Here's why this matters beyond the dollar figures. Nvidia's real moat has never been just its chips. It's CUDA, the software layer and developer ecosystem that everyone has built on top of for years. That's the hard part to replicate. Under this deal, Anthropic is expected to help optimize its Claude workloads on AMD's competing software stack, called ROCm. In other words, a major frontier lab is going to help strengthen the exact weakest part of AMD's position against Nvidia. It also means Anthropic isn't locked into a single chip supplier, which gives it leverage on capacity, pricing, and the cost of running its models. This might be the clearest sign yet that the big labs aren't just window shopping for alternative chips. They're willing to help build an entire rival ecosystem to loosen Nvidia's grip. Staying with Anthropic, Claude's voice mode also got a meaningful upgrade. Until now, voice conversations only ran on Haiku, Anthropic's fast but lighter model. Now voice mode can run on Opus and Sonnet too, the more capable reasoning models. It can also tap into connected services like Gmail, Slack, Google Calendar, and Canva with your permission, and it handles more languages. The beta is available to all Claude Chat users on mobile, desktop, and web. The practical difference is that voice becomes useful for actually thinking through something, not just barking simple commands. You can talk through a proposal, rehearse for a meeting, or weigh competing ideas out loud, and then ask Claude to act on it, moving a calendar appointment, turning the conversation into a Canva document, or drafting email replies. Anthropic sums up the pitch neatly, saying, "Some problems you can't type your way through." Free users get Haiku and one connected tool, while paid plans unlock the better models and more connectors. Worth noting the limitation though. Claude still works in a turn-taking style, so you wait for it to finish rather than interrupting naturally. And it won't automatically detect when you switch languages. That's a real gap compared to the more fluid, interruption-friendly voice experiences we've seen elsewhere. Finally, Google published something genuinely useful for understanding how people actually use AI day to day. It's called the Atlas study, and it pulls from 15 million de-identified interactions across the Gemini app, Google's AI mode, and the Gemini API, products Google says reach over 1 billion monthly users combined. The headline finding is striking. More than 86% of the measured interactions happened outside of work. So instead of the office productivity story everyone talks about, people were leaning on AI for household research, figuring out appliances, and slogging through painful administrative tasks like taxes, licensing, and fines. That's the kind of everyday grind that traditional workplace studies completely miss. The study spanned more than 150 countries, and English made up only about a third of all conversations. But per-person adoption generally tracked how wealthy a country was, which suggests the AI divide could end up mirroring the earlier internet and computing divides, where access followed money. The takeaway is that the real economic impact of AI right now may be showing up as invisible time savings in people's personal lives, rather than the easily measured workplace automation everyone keeps predicting. One honest caveat: because this data comes entirely from Google's own products, it's a snapshot of Google's users, not proof of how the entire market behaves.
Thank you for listening to AI Convo Cast. Please don't forget to rate, review, and share if you like what you hear. Thanks and hope to see you again next time.